Indonesians are bracing for more heavy rains after floods and landslides devastated regions in the north and west. More than 880 people have been confirmed dead and hundreds are missing. A chain of tropical storms hit South and Southeast Asia last week. Indonesia's military is stepping up relief efforts in the worst hit areas. DW correspondent Georg Matthes has this report now from North Sumatra.
This used to be Dani Sianipar's home in northern Sumatra. It's now meters below the mud. The mother of four barely escaped with her life when half a mountain collapsed on her house in the middle of the night.
I was just taking care of my baby when I heard a very loud boom. We were terrified. We walked while praying and screaming, all together, the whole family. We ran, and then some local people came and rescued us.
After floods and landslides hit the island of Sumatra more than a week ago, it took 4 days for help to reach her tiny village. All the roads were washed out. This is what hundreds of homes across the island now look like. Clearing away the mud and debris will take months.
Once you step into this slippery mud is when you fully understand how dangerous these landslides are, with literally liquefied soil coming in from all corners. Now, luckily in this building, no one got hurt. People could flee in time, but many here are now concerned about secondary landslides.
The soil in the mountains is still soaked and more rain is forecast to hit Sumatra. Many villages remain cut off, and that is why the Indonesian military says it's now moving at full speed to get food and medical aid to thousands of people in need.
We've already been able to reach 6 villages on foot that are still isolated. Our plan is to walk there again to identify the exact coordinates for helicopter aid deliveries and set up an emergency kitchen there. We hope this will ensure that no one is left without assistance.
Some relief for Dani has arrived. Soldiers not only came with food, but also brought diapers for her baby. For now, her family is staying with neighbors. She says she won't rebuild her house here. But she also says only with financial aid would her family be able to move somewhere safer and start over.
For more on this, I spoke to DW correspondent Cinta Zanidya in northern Sumatra and asked her about the situation with more heavy rain expected in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, it was actually just raining here in North Tapanuli, and the atmosphere here has been tense because even though some roads have been cleared, but the ground itself isn't stable just yet. So a lot of survivors were being told not to come back to their houses because it is very dangerous for them to do so. And aside from that, we've also seen aid coming in as well as rescuers recovering dead bodies in the rain. And with 500 people still missing, this operation is still in full force. And if I can wrap up the whole situation in North Tapanuli right now, is that people are getting anxious because they have a sense that it is not over for them just yet, especially with heavy rains coming in. And for those that have lost their homes, they don't know what's to come, or if they don't know if they can go back to their houses after this.
Cinta, you talk about the anxiety. Some aid is finally arriving where you are. It's been more than a week since the flooding set in. What are people and rescuers there telling you about that aid situation?
We were just at one of the dropping off points for aid in North Sumatra, actually, and what we saw there is that people lining up to get food, and the people there, they actually told us that they don't live near the dropping off points at all. They actually live kilometers away from the dropping off points, and so they had to walk for hours just to get food. And they were telling us that the villages, their villages, are still isolated, and so that's why they had to walk every day just to get food. And aside from that, rescuers, they were telling us that they have been struggling to clear some paths, especially with people still walking around the heavy machinery as well as still blocked roads. But the thing is that that's the only way that people can get food around here. And so yes, they're still struggling to clear some paths for access for more aid.
Right, the people there are in desperate need by the sound of it, but authorities there haven't declared a state of disaster or asked for foreign aid. Why is that?
Yeah, we actually talked to an Indonesian minister 2 days ago, and they said that the situation is still under control and that that aid is still coming through to everyone impacted in Sumatra. But the thing is that what we witnessed hasn't quite matched what the government is saying, because as I said before, people have to walk for kilometers and hours at a time just so that they can get food, especially for those who are still isolated in their villages. And we were told that there are still some villages just in North Sumatra that is still completely isolated from North Sumatra. And so we talked to them at the dropping off point, and they said that they are getting desperate for food and for electricity, because in some areas they still don't have electricity just yet. And so they're hoping that the government would speed up the road clearing operation so that there is more access for food in more isolated areas.
On the ground in North Tapanuli in northern Sumatra, DW's Cinta Zanidya, thanks so much. Well, Sri Lanka is also bracing for more devastation after it was hit by a cyclone last week. Forecasters are warning of fresh rains and landslides. More than 600 people are dead and another 200 people are missing. Around 2 million have already been affected by floods and landslides. Tens of thousands of homes have been damaged. The government has announced a compensation package to help people rebuild. Well, Amal Jayasinghe is Sri Lanka Bureau Chief for the AFP news agency, joining us from the capital, Colombo. Amal, thanks so much for taking the time. More rains are expected. Is the country prepared for the possibility of more landslides and more floodings?
Well, this is really the big problem for lots of people, especially in the central part of the country, the sort of tea-growing mountainous region. Now, the Met Office is saying that they're expecting the northeast monsoon to establish in the next few days. Actually, it started on Friday. There had been very heavy rains in Colombo as well, and some of the roads in Colombo were underwater on Friday and Friday evening. But in the central part of the country, that's where the real danger is. People have been trying to clean their homes, especially the flooded homes, and they were trying to go back. But now there is a threat of fresh floods because the monsoon seems to be setting in and coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah, with the idea that more floods are coming, how are the rescue operations going and the aid operations? And the rescue operations that are currently ongoing from the last flooding and attempts to get aid to those already affected by the flooding. How are those procedures going?
Now it's actually more than a week since the worst flooding and the worst landslides. So the government is officially saying that the rescue operation or the rescue phase of the operation is now over. It's essentially a recovery phase right now. So the military has been deployed in very large numbers, and the clearing of the debris, the clearing of the wreckage and reopening the roads, that's going on at a fairly big pace right now. Most of the roads have been cleared by now, although there's sort of still a lot of soil that has collected on either side of the road. There's still some trees that have fallen across. That's being cleared. But at the same time, the rains are particularly difficult for the relief operation because some of these supplies are still being taken by helicopter. And they're also using heavy vehicles to reach some of the places. But with the onset of rains, again, you are having to deal with this very messy, muddy kind of terrain. unless you have a four-wheel drive vehicle, it's very difficult to reach those places using conventional trucks.
With those problems in mind, the government has announced a major compensation package for cyclone victims. Briefly before we go, how effective has the government response been to this point?
Well, there was initial criticism that people were not getting enough help. Or more importantly, that people were not warned in advance. But then the Met Department and the Disaster Management Center, they've been saying that they knew that this storm was going to hit Sri Lanka. Probably a lot of people did not take the warnings seriously. They are used to, some of these people in low-lying areas are used to flooding, but they never expected this much of flooding. But in terms of the package that has been offered, it seems to be the most generous kind of relief package that has ever been offered. But the question is whether the government can actually afford this. So they have now asked for additional funding from the International Monetary Fund. So I think without some kind of international assistance, it doesn't look like the government will be able to do it on their own.
Amal Jayasinghe, AFP Bureau Chief in Colombo, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you.